And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Sunday morning. We got some marginal VFR right up to the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coast, down in toward Togiak Bay, through the Bering Strait, and IFR along the eastern Arctic coast here. VFR in the interior, all the way down till you get to the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound area into Kamishak Bay. Some IFR around Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and out west over the Shimiatu area. Mostly VFR for the southeast coast. For the afternoon, marginal VFR pulls southward there, well off the coastline, south of Montague Island. Still some marginal VFR possible in Kamishak Bay and for Kodiak Island. But all of interior Alaska and the Panhandle stays VFR with the lower conditions out here over the western Aleutians. And then for Monday morning, big area of IFR becomes very widespread here across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula, as well as the Gulf here, and northward there into the Talkeetna Mountain areas, down, or actually up into the Chugach Mountains, the way this is drawn, and covering much of the Gulf of Alaska. Lower conditions for the Arctic coast. Most of the interior, though, staying pretty good. VFR all the way out to the Arctic coast. And then for the afternoon, some IFR still in areas of the Arctic coast up there. But to the south, VFR all the way down into the North Gulf Coast areas and out to the west here with VFR even off the coastline. IFR, Bering Strait, down across the Bering Sea there into the central Aleutians. Good VFR holds over the Panhandle. Passes tomorrow, Brooks Range, VFR for both passes there. Anaktuvik and Adigan looking good. Lake Clark and Merrill, Western Alaska Range, good VFR again tomorrow, windy included. And Isabel and Mentasta, good VFR. Same thing for Tanita and even Portage, as well as Chilkoot and White. So all the passes forecasting another VFR day for Sunday. Freezing levels here, some cooler air just west of the Queen Charlotte Islands there, but up over the Panhandle looking at about 6,000 to 8,000 feet, 8,000 foot plus freezing levels central and eastern interior, all the way up to the Arctic coast. And out here over the Bering Sea, cooler air out there with some upper level low pressure, 2,000 to 4,000 feet. And for icing, could be some considerable rime icing, considerable moderate rime icing into the Alaska Peninsula here, and then back out over the open waters of the Bering Sea there, and then possibly some scattered mixed icing developing here over the mountainous terrain, or I should say the Alaska Range here, maybe the Talkeetnas, but nothing too serious at all. And for the jet stream, main jet here, well to the south, we've got low pressure west of the Queen Charlotte Islands. Easterly winds 60 knots there to the north of that feature. Southeast about 60 knots there from the central interior out across the northwest coast. And then we've got southerlies at about 60 knots over the eastern Bering Sea, and then north 60 knots for the western areas. And for 9,000 feet, southeast winds 40 knots along the west coast here, up to 45 knots there for the Alaska Peninsula area. Under high pressure, winds light over the central and eastern part of the state from the Arctic coast right down to the Gulf of Alaska. And then this system here west of the Queen Charlotte's bringing 40-knot winds in across mostly Dixon entrance, lighter to the north. 3,000 feet, southeast winds here along the west and southwest coast, 40 to 45 knots, again strongest across the Alaska Peninsula. Light winds from the Arctic coast there, all the way down into the Gulf of Alaska, as well as the southeast coast. Out here to the west, northwesterlies 40 knots blowing across the eastern Aleutians. Turbulence with a band of southeast winds about 40 to 45 knots at 3,000 feet, threw in some considerable moderate turbulence there for the Alaska Peninsula, maybe the Aleutian Range right up along the southwest coast. And light to isolated moderate up to the western Seward Peninsula, as well as possibly for Point Hope and Cape Lisburne.